Give it to God. Give it to Melchizedek, priest of God. It was part of the celebration. It was part of rejoicing that we had victory over our enemies. And somehow this whole tithing thing started going down through the line of the great men of faith in the Old Testament. It becomes the standard of giving to God. We don't know where. That's the first time it's mentioned in the Bible. But we know the next time somebody does it is in Genesis chapter 28. Go to Genesis chapter 28. This is Abram's grandson, Jacob. His grandson, Jacob. Look at verse 18. And Jacob just has this, and maybe you're familiar with the story before this. This is Jacob's ladder, where he has this vision of angels going up and down an escalator, is kind of what it sounds like we call it. But he called it a ladder. Okay, up and down the ladder, the angels are going. So he wakes up from this vision in verse 18. Early the next morning, Jacob took the stone he had placed under his head. That was his pillow. It makes your ear hurt just thinking about it, doesn't it? And he set it up as a pillar. Now it's setting up. And he poured oil on the top of it. He called that place Bethel, or Bet-El. Bet in Hebrew is house of. Okay? What's it in Spanish is, it's
Casa.
Casa. Okay? Same thing. House of. Casa. In Hebrew, it's Bet, and we pronounce it Bet. Bet-El. El is the name for God. So Bethel means house of God. Though the city used to be called Luz. Then Jacob made a vow saying, if God will be with me and will watch over me on this journey I am taking, and will give me food to eat and clothes to wear, so that I return safely to my father's house, then the Lord will be my God, and this stone that I have set up will be God's house. And of all that you give me, I will give you a tenth. By the way, let's make a deal with God. Okay, I just want to let you know this. Now, in all seriousness, why do you think the Jews are known for being hagglers? They haggle with God. Remember, Abram did it. He goes, we're going to now destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. Well, you know, what if you find 40 righteous people there? What if you find 30? What if you find 20? What if you just find 10? I mean, you figured you go toe-to-toe with God. That's pretty special. That's what Jacob just did. He went toe-to-toe with God. Hey, you bless me. I get to come back here, get to see Dad again. I'll give you 10% of everything I got. Okay? Pretty good thing here. Now, let's go forward. Let's go 4 wives forward, at least 13 children that we can name, and 20 years. And go to Genesis chapter 35. Genesis chapter 35. Jacob goes down, goes back to the place where his mother was born and his grandpa was born. And remember when he comes back and he's before Esau, and man, it's just a beautiful story about how Esau just grabs him and hugs on him and loves on him and kisses on him, and they just sit there and cry. So it's definitely a girl story, guys. It's okay. And so look at Genesis chapter 35, verses 6 through 7. This is 20 years, 4 wives, 13 of these kids later. Here's what we find out. Jacob and all the people with him came to Luz, that is, Bethel, in the land of Canaan. There he built an altar, and he called the place El Bet-El, okay? God, the house of God. That loses something in the translation. But God, house of God, El Bet-El, because it was there that God revealed himself to him when he was fleeing from his brother. Now listen, why do you build an altar? See, this gets lost on us. Why do we build an altar? Because we're going to burn things on it. You build an altar to sacrifice things to God. Guess what he sacrificed today? 10th of everything. 1/10. He was burning stuff up. People were going, are you out of your mind? He goes, excuse me, I made the deal 20 years ago, this very spot with God. Look around. He had all these kids, all this cattle. And if you read what he gave to his brother, you think, whoa, how much did he have if he gave that much to his brother? And then what does he do? He sacrifices a tenth of it to God. And they weren't there a day, I'll tell you what, they were there a long time. He tithed before his God. Now listen, parents and grandparents, it's essential that we teach our children by our words and our example to to tithe. Susan grew up in a house that tithed. I did not. We grew up in a house that whenever we did finally go to church, which was till I was 14 years old, I could count on those two hands how many times I was at church. Okay? So Mom would get to church and she would open up her billfold and start reading through it. And she'd give my brother a quarter and she'd give me a quarter. And that was the family offering. Okay? That was kind of, and if it was bad, she'd give us $1 because she didn't have any quarters. You know, that was a lot. Here, kids, look for change. And so that was how I was raised. And I didn't tell us first service. When I was in 16, I had a really good job. I used to zero out my checking account when I'd write a check to church. Like, didn't matter what I got paid. If I had $73.12 in my checking account, I'd write it for $3.12. So I just had $70 left. That's how I zeroed down my cents and my dollars in my checking account. No rhyme or reason to my goodness, let me tell you. But it made balancing the checkbook easier. And so, because nobody taught me to give. Nobody taught me to give. I knew I had to give God something, but nobody taught me about this. And unfortunately, my church was a little wanting at that too. But Susan and I had learned that we needed to tithe, and there's more to the story of how God got us where we're at today, and we haven't wanted anything for the last 22 years thanks to Him and tithing. But there's even stronger and clear motivation to tithe, and there's teaching on tithe. So the first tithe is given in the Bible. We understand that. Kind of out of the blue.